Hello, everyone. Welcome to Y.E.A.S.T, your energetic, authentic self today. I am Sheila.
Hope. This is Joy.
And once again, welcome. Today, we have the pleasure of Hope sharing with us her own life experiences. She has agreed to show up as her energetic, authentic self today to share with the audience. So Hope, welcome. We look forward to hearing about you.
All right. Thank you, Sheila. So I am going to share a little bit of how I grew up. I was born and raised in China, a northern part of China, province very close to Beijing, about an hour drive. And I was born in a rural, small town. For those of you who know about Chinese history, there was 10 years of a period of time that was very tough for many people like my parents. And it was called a Cultural Revolution. It spanned from 1966 to 1976. So my parents used to have their job, but was sent back to the rural area to be re-educated. So I was born there and with 4 other siblings. So childhood was a very happy, but also during that time, China as a country was very poor. So the availability of food, clothing, the normal living condition was not that good. So that was my childhood. However, like I mentioned, I was very happy with my siblings, with my parents, very loving family, play together, have our parties when there's holidays. And I finished my elementary school in that small town and then moved to a small city where my parents got their job back and continue on my middle school, high school, and went to Beijing for my college, Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and study aerospace manufacturing engineering. So I was supposed to be a rocket scientist, which is a little further away from what I'm doing right now. And I studied college, grad school, worked for 2 years before I moved to US. Of course, along the way, I got married. And when I came to US, I studied in Ohio State University, studied industrial and systems engineering, and got a master's degree and went to work. I started my career journey. So that's about maybe 5 minutes of summary of my first half of my life.
So Hope, when you talk about that journey, particularly your career journey, what have you learned along the way that you believe will be of value to whomever's listening in this moment?
What a great question. So I think maybe because I have other siblings, I grew up pretty competitive. So I'm competitive in study, I'm competitive in sports. So like I said, I finished my elementary school in the rural area as top 1 student and moved into middle school in a small city. Of course, then my grade was not as good as other people, but then only in a few months, because I started really hard, I asked other people, learned from other people, and I became the top number 1 again. And then from there, we moved into high school. High school, again, is a change that people from all over the, what do we call that? All over the city, suburb area. Again, it's another starting point. And again, I worked hard to become top number 1 student. The same thing repeated when I went to university. Remember, that was a top university in China. and people from all over the country. Some of them were top #1 in their provinces. And again, just repeat the process, work hard and put in effort. And then I became the top #1 student again. That was not easy, okay? It was engineering school, a top university with 156 students in my department for that year, 18 females. And so I think what I learned is life is a series of starting points. It's not just one, like a race, quote, quote, race. It is different stages of life, and we can make choices. And even if you were behind, as long as we work hard, and we will be able to achieve what we desire to. And I think that's what I learned through my first half of my life journey. However, I do have some story to tell after I came to US.
So thank you for that, Hope. And I noticed you said the first half of your life journey. So when you mention, stories to tell for coming to the US, what would you like to share with us?
Yes. So the first half of my life, what I meant is I was living in my own country, and I was talking in my own language, and I was meeting, surrounded by the people who look like me. But that changed when I came to US. I remembered when I first landed in US, I didn't understand other people, and people didn't understand me. I got really shy. I don't want to say a word because I know whatever I was going to say is going to be pronounced wrong. I'm sure, Hope, Joy, you can relate to this. So I think that was a turning point for me. All of a sudden, my confidence accumulated that many years. It's gone. It was gone, like completely falling to the ground level, ground zero. So I remember after I finished my master's degree, I needed to find a job. For the interview, I was shivering because I know that I didn't understand their question. How can I give them an answer if I didn't understand the question? So I think really coming to US started my second part of the journey to rebuild that confidence, lost the confidence and rebuild.
So what did that process look like for you as far as rebuilding your confidence?
Great question. It was very hard. It's not easy. Like I said, when I first went to the grad school, I didn't understand the faculty. What can I do? I studied the book. I didn't understand during the class, but I studied the book again and again, went to office hour, asked a question. But in the end, it's almost like a miracle. I got A. I didn't know how that happened. But then I went to work and found a really good job working in software engineering. I had great managers and peers, and you start to pick up. And of course, the confidence is not built overnight, is day in, day out, start to speak a little more, start to discuss, knowing that probably 50% what I have said was usually pronounced. Just forgave myself for doing that and to pick up. So that was the starting point of working in US corporates, start to build relationship, start to build a network. And I worked for the first company for 8 years. Even today, the CEO of that company and we still keep in touch. We still have lunch from time to time. And sometimes he still joke that whether I wanted to go back to work for that company. So build a relationship along the way.
That's awesome. Sharing hope. Now looking back, you have a very successful career as a woman in technology. For our audience out there, what would you like to share, the key components of your success?
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, I think women in technology to feel that's just a fact. I think that's also why I wanted to utilize either my platform or my network or my ability to help more women to stay in technology, to get into technology. This past weekend, I was volunteering in Generation Tech event for my company to attract the high schoolers to get into coding project. So I think some of the things that I think is very important for women in technology to build their career is the first thing I already kind of mentioned, the confidence. I think a lot of times we are lacking of confidence and we check all the list before we apply for a job or take on a task. And I learned that during a training session that men don't do that. They still check the list, but they only check maybe 60 or 70% of that checklist. Then they will raise their hand and say, okay, I can do this. So I think as a group, we need to be more mindful on that, build confidence. You do not need to check all the checklists. And secondly, I did mention that build that relationship. I think the relationship goes a long way. It's not for the sake of just career development out of some purpose. It's more like all the different kinds of relationship, it makes me grow. Like when I talk to other people, I learn from them. When I talk to people who are in the company longer than me, and then I start to know the company culture of other people I can talk to. And when you think about it, it's almost like we call this network, right? It's 3 people, all of a sudden you may start to know 30 people. I think that networking is very important. And third thing I think is you have to be really good at what you do. And I think that's not only in technology, it applies to all the other fields as well. In order to be a leader or excellent or successful at your career, you want to be as best as you can be in the field you're working in. So I spend a lot of time learning new technologies and working on coding and all that. So I think to summarize, to build confidence, build a network, and be good at what you do.
That's awesome. I like that. So, remember, build your confidence and build your network too. Use your relationship and also be the expert in the field. Thank you for sharing, Hope. As we wrap up this session, what do you want our audience to remember about you?
Thank you, Joy. Well, I want you to remember that we're all work in progress. And when I say my first half of my life, my second half of my life, but I think that every day I'm learning something new. So to summarize my own personal branding, and my name is Hope, and my personal branding is hopeful. H is for I care about humanity and humility. I think we're not isolate. We need to look at the global issues, whether it's climate change, whether it's politics, whether it's social justice, we're all part of that. And all is me being open-minded and optimistic. And I know that last episode, we talked about the current anti-Asian hate crime, all that, but I remain optimistic. And I think it is only a small amount of people and only a temporary time. And I believe tomorrow is better. P is I have a life purpose and I am very passionate. As you can tell when I'm talking. And E is I am very empathetic and energetic. And even at work, sometimes when I talk to my team, I may have tears in my eyes just because when I listen to the story that I care about. And F is I'm futuristic, I'm fearless, and I am fun. And I think it's not only that work or life is hard, and make it fun. Fun things that can give us some laughter. So I love laughters. What do we have? You is I constantly uplift myself and others. Because I think it's important to help other people, especially for me to help other women along the way. And hopeful L, I learn and I lead. As I mentioned, you want to be the best in your field, then that requires us constantly learn. And also just from the kind of a brain science point of view, when we learn, we're creating new neural pathways. So we're not getting old by doing that. So that's a lot.
It is a lot, and thank you for sharing, Hope. More importantly, thank you for showing up as your energetic, authentic self today. Really appreciate you sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank you, Sheila. Enjoy.